Hello, we are in gate 5, the gate of waiting, the gate of fixed rhythms, and we're in the 4th line, which is called the hunter. When you get to the upper trigram, you get into something that's very important. We've got a collective channel here, so obviously we have something that is inherently social. Its keynote is sharing, and now we have a transpersonal process, or a transpersonal karma, in which sharing the pattern becomes the dominant theme. This is where the upper trigram of the 5th line, the magnetism of the channel is really enhanced. 515s, I said 5th line, I meant 5th gate, sorry. 515s are very magnetic by their very nature. They pull other people into their fixed rhythm, pattern, structure. Having trouble with words today. My worms have left me. The magnetism lies in the capacity to bring others into a pattern. And here in the 4th and then the 5th and 6th lines, that's where this gift really resides. It's not to say that the lower trigram 5th gates are not magnetic as such. It's just that they don't really hold a candle to the magnetism of the upper trigram, simply because they don't have the transpersonal skills. What happens for the lower trigram is that their patterns are magnetic, but for themselves. In other words, the pattern is always pulling them to be the pattern. They are epitomizing the pattern. But in the upper trigram here, the work is to externalize the pattern. The 15th gate at the other end of the channel there, it's the gate of the love of humanity. It's part of the vessel of love. It's externalizing the pattern to bring us together in common patterns as an act of human love. So this 4th line is very significant because, well, 4th lines have this capacity as opportunists to be able to externalize the pattern and to have influence in that externalization. And we know that the 4th line is in resonance to the 1st line, where the captain must go down with the ship. And here we have the hunter. And the lifetime learning says, waiting as a guarantee of survival. Ra said that this is one of those lines that every generator should read because it's what it's all about. And it is survival as yourself, operating correctly through response. Having your natural rhythm or fixing your natural rhythm is a guarantee of survival. Well, there are very few guarantees in this life, but here's one. The guarantee is that if you live by your fixed rhythm, your natural fixed rhythm, it's a guarantee of survival. In the exaltation, we have the creative genius to transform the most passive experience into active achievement, the power to make the best of one's fixed rhythm. This goes back to something very basic about understanding how wonderful our form is. It goes back to the fact that we don't have to do anything. It is built in because it's genetics after all. If you're not struggling with your own rhythm, if you're not trying to change it, you're not succumbing to group pressure and conditioning, then this is the opportunity for a deep creative process to really see what comes out of you in your natural rhythm, because it is you. Out of that natural rhythm comes the pure, logical process that belongs to you. And it is a guarantee that you will survive. And it's not because of somebody else. It's you for yourself. The idea that waiting is not productive, that it's only frustrating, this is propaganda. This is coming from the not self. To transform the most passive experience into active achievement means you've got to keep doing, you've got to keep on going, you've got to make something happen. This is a transpersonal process. This is the recognition that the collective operates through the other. In the detriment, the vanity of a personality so strong that unwilling to hide behind a blind threatens its very survival. The drive to deny one's own rhythm with predictable costs. Here in the fourth line of the hunter, you get a feel for what Ra described for the generators as the difference between the gunslinger and the sheriff. Here in these two lines, we have these two aspects. If you are unwilling to wait, then you're at risk. The sheriff goes out looking for the gunslinger, they're going to get killed. But the sheriff who waits for the gunslinger to show up, they're going to be able to master the gunslinger. They'll be the ones in charge. And being the hunter, this is what it's all about, really. And here in the detriment, you're unwilling to hide, you're unwilling to wait. Well, you're not going to get a lot to eat that way. If you're a hunter and you're out in the woods, you're hunting deer, and you're behind a blind, but you can't wait, then you're never going to get your deer, and you're not going to eat. This is the other side of the captain going down with the ship. This is just cutting your losses and leaving. The fourth line is our abdicator. This line knows there's another side. It knows there's a 15, and the 15 is the love of humanity. I need to serve humanity. The fourth, the fifth, the sixth lines of the fifth hexagram are there to serve humanity. In that externalization, in the fourth line, you have this fixed process where it says, I don't want to wait. I want to serve humanity now. I don't want to accept this rhythm. The moment that they don't accept their own natural rhythm, survival is threatened. There are so many people, who out of impatience or pressure will break their natural rhythm and try to live out another rhythm, and in the process become very ill. They become unhealthy because it's not correct for them, and their cells no. Illness has its manifestation in many ways. It's not simply chronic, obvious illness. It can be a deeper psychological thing. All kinds of emotional damage can be done in the crushing of the ego, for example, in the way that the defined or the open solar plex is treated. And all of these different things, all the different ways of the manifestation of illness comes down to this line and this gate. Because every cell, remember, every cell carries this gate. One of the things to recognize about the fourth line is that it really needs to be able to express that fixed rhythm as a contribution to the totality, as a contribution to humanity, for the love of humanity. If you go against your own rhythm, you will pay the price. Always, somehow. Ra's advice or information for people with this line, with this detriment, was always that they must make sure there is nobody around them who is pulling them away from their natural rhythm, because they will succumb and it will cost them. Mechanics protects us by giving us a way to work with the mechanical information. We don't have to guess. It's there for us. If you have an aspect that you can bring into a detrimental field, but it's not healthy for you, you have to make sure that those forces, you can push them away, because you have got to be able to do that. Think about the 21 in the third line, which says it's powerless with superior forces. So you don't work with superior forces, because then you will be powerless. If you don't want to be pulled away from your fixed rhythm, because that tendency is always in you, if you have this detriment particularly, just don't allow anyone in who's going to do that. Don't allow people around you who don't accept your rhythm. In that way, mechanics is a great teacher. My blackbirds have a very fixed rhythm. It's their stomach. Here you go. Okay, grounding. The grounding in the 35. So the grounding to the hunter is called hunger. It is keynoted as an insatiable appetite for progress. This line is fixed on progress, of course. It's a fourth line. They have to have progress. If they don't have change, oh, they think the world's going to end because of the boredom it's going to bring. And this is such an interesting grounding to have in light of what I've just told you. For the fifth gate in the fourth line, the fixed nature there of holding on to their fixed rhythm in order to be healthy. There's no bringing something in that's going to change. There's no new experience. So, okay, I'm passing this one over to you guys. I would be really interested in your comments and any observations you have to make about how these seemingly disparate energies work together to support. If you have any ideas, please leave me a note in the comments. I'd be very interested in your thoughts. And if you have these gates, then what's your experience? Because that's really where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? It's like, yes, I've been there, I've done that, and this is how I share what I've got. And these are both collective gates. So sharing is important. Okay, what else have we got? Uranus moved into gate 23 at 7:46 this morning, and this is a great activation for Uranus. It brings us the energy of following our own track, expressing ourselves in unique ways. And so gate 23, it's in individuality, and it's a throat gate, and it's part of the channel of structuring, together with gate 43, which is known as the genius to freak. So it's all about the uniqueness of expression. It's all about getting that inspirational insight out into the world. Gate 23 is crucial in this. So how are you going to express yourself during this 3-month activation of Uranus in gate 23? It's a projector gate. So if you want to be heard, if you truly want to make a contribution, and this gate 23 is a mirror to gate 8, which is the gate of contribution, so wait to be invited. That's what will serve you well. Okay, the moon is still in gate 41. It's been there since 7:57. It moves into gate 19 next at 18:05. This is the gate of wanting, the gate of approach. It is tribal and it's a root pressure. It's the fuel to find out what the needs of the tribe are in order to support them. This is a sensitive gate. It can be a bit oversensitive. It can be a bit needy when its own needs aren't met. And it can be difficult to take care of yourself when the tribe is involved. And lastly, gate 13, the fellowship of man, the gate of the listener. This is a G-center gate. It's still in collective circuitry, but we're on the abstract side. Gate 13 listens to people's reflections and experiences. It will take in secrets and confessions. And this is the end of the cycle where experiences can be reflected on. The gate above is the gate of retreat and privacy. This is where gate 13 can share what it's heard, which can then ultimately, once it's been reflected on, be taken into the collective and shared. Oh, yes. So that's line 4. We're hoofing through it, aren't we? Be the end of the year before we know it. So we have, obviously we have a 5th line tomorrow. And until then, go gently.